My name is Jim Vickaryous, and I'm a plaintiff's personal injury lawyer here in Florida. I want to talk to you today about listening and winning. Now, the key part of being a lawyer, in my opinion, is actually listening and not the argument that you're making for your clients. In order to win, you need to listen first to completely understand your client's position and the opposing party's position. Listening this way will fundamentally transform your practice. The key part of listening is active listening. You have to want to listen. Being an active listener can be extremely difficult, especially for us lawyers. There's so many distractions in our lives. The telephone rings, a text comes in, you see an email, your iPhone goes off and you need to call somebody. But if this happens in a conversation with a client or an opposing attorney or somebody that you need to listen to you, they know that you are putting something else as a priority to them, and they're not going to listen to you. We make arguments and expect others to listen, but here's the big problem in life. Most people actually don't listen. What we don't realize is that most people don't care what we are saying because they aren't listening either. We forget that those listening to us give us a great privilege. Listening is an intentional act. Active listening is an intentional act where the listener commits to clearing a space in their mind to listen to another. Now, to actively listen, we need to stop thinking of the next question we want to ask and simply open our minds to the next thing the person is going to say to us. A big tip on listening is not to take notes. We lawyers love to pull our legal pad out and write down everything that somebody is saying to us. We fail the person who's talking to us when we do that, and we definitely hurt ourselves by doing that. Because as we're looking at our legal pad, we're not looking at the other person's face, not looking into their eyes, not seeing their expressions, not seeing what their nonverbal communication is. You can always write notes later. Don't take notes when you're listening. You will get much more out of it. Now, this is old advice, very old advice. And one of the best lawyers in America actually gave this advice to lawyers that he was mentoring, and he said this: when I'm getting ready to reason with a man, I spend 1/3 of my time thinking about myself and what I'm going to say, and 2/3 about him and what he's going to say. This was said by none other than Abraham Lincoln, one of the best American lawyers that's ever graced a courtroom. Client confidentiality is very important to a lawyer, and even more important to the client. In order to understand as a lawyer what truly is confidential, you need to listen to your client and determine what your client wants you to keep secret and what your client is going to allow you to talk to the other side about. In any kind of client conversation, your client shares quite a bit with you. Most of it you can share with others with the client's permission in order to do the client's business. But there's many things the client wants you to keep to yourself. If you're not listening intently to what the client's saying, you're not going to make that distinction, and you're going to cause damage to your client. One of the wonderful things about being a listening lawyer is that a listening lawyer is not a pushover, is quite powerful, and is never silent. The listening lawyer actively listens to an opposing lawyer to determine what are the actual disagreements. The listening lawyer begins an argument, addressing the concerns of the other side to demonstrate a thorough understanding of the opponent's argument. Now, this shows mental toughness and discipline, and it can often take the wind out of your opponent's argument. It bolsters your credibility as a lawyer when you begin making your own client's argument. Now, beginning an argument with something your audience wants to hear often makes them willing listeners, especially if you can come up with a short story that's appropriate, that shows that you listen to the other side and applies to your arguments. Now, I'm going to finish with the toughest part of listening, the toughest part of listening is often failing to listen to yourself. You always have to listen to your gut. There's always something inside you that pushes you towards the simplest solution. As lawyers, we want to make it more complicated than it needs to be. Your gut is often right, but we like to ignore our gut and not listen. So in order to be a great listening lawyer, listen actively to others, listen carefully to yourself. And by doing that, you'll be a successful listening lawyer. I'm Jim Vickaryous, a Florida plaintiff's personal injury lawyer. If you have a client that needs injury help, I would love to team up with you to help your client. Thanks a lot for listening today.